Welcome to Graded Podcasts.
Luke Del Roberts is one of the world's leading chefs. Since his arrival in Cape Town in 2006, Luke has consistently proven his world-class standing with a string of awards. Opening the Test Kitchen in 2010, Luke has garnered multiple awards and has since then collaborated and launched more incredible restaurants in Cape Town. He is known for his innovation as a chef, and his dishes are a pure reflection of his creativity with flavors and ingredients. The projects he has worked on have improved the food world drastically, while inspiring young people's growth in this industry. Luke's story and drive for success inspires me, which is why he's someone I've looked up to for a lot of my life and someone we can learn from. Good morning, Luke. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. What was your childhood life like, and how did your environment influence your drive for success?
So childhood life was, I was brought up in the countryside. I was one of two siblings, my sister being 2 years older than me, lived in the country in East Sussex in the UK, spent a lot of time fishing and, doing all the naughty things that young boys do. I had a good upbringing from my mother and father. School life was difficult from a very young age. I was very distracted at school, couldn't concentrate, always in trouble. From primary school, which runs from like 5 years to 11 years. My mother's Swiss, so I spoke French before English as a tiny child. And then when I started school, I was already speaking English, but I was more communicating with my mother in French. So good country childhood. School was challenging.
You discussed school as being extremely challenging. How did that influence your drive for success?
I spent from 5 to 11 in primary school, then from 11 till 16 in secondary school. I left school at 16 with next to no qualifications. I walked out on my last exam, having not finished it, and went to Glastonbury Rock Festival, age 16. At that point, I didn't really have a map. I knew that I remember we were given a little yellow pamphlet at school when we were just like 15 and a half, and there was a list of things that we could go to college to study. I looked at the list at the last minute and just pointed out engineering, it was like entry-level engineering, which required little to no qualifications. So I went to a local college in the UK, and I did this engineering course, and then quickly realized that it was everything that I hated about school: mathematics, physics. So I walked out of that. I walked out of that class and never went back. And at the time, my sister's boyfriend, Bert, was an electrician. I'd helped him a lot on building sites, like just getting pocket money and stuff like that. And I quite liked the energy on building sites, lots of like swearing and, boyish jokes and all that kind of thing. And so I decided, okay, now I want to be an electrician. And I had a little 50cc motorbike. I rode it back from college and then stopped in the careers office at school. Said, right, I want to be an electrician. What do I need to do? And it was all sorted for me. And then I went home for Sunday, or it was like a lunchtime, like a Monday or Tuesday or whatever. And my uncle, who was in hospitality, was visiting at that time from Saudi Arabia. He was a hotel manager in Saudi Arabia. And I said to the family, look, I want to be an electrician. And they were just like, okay, cool, but like, maybe you should consider this a little bit more. You've literally just walked out of college and now you're becoming an electrician. And it was really, I mean, they could see it for what it was, that I was kind of like, my hero was Burr and I wanted to be like him. And then my uncle said, how about something in hospitality? You can do You can be a waiter, or you can be a hotel manager, or you can be a chef. And I was like, oh, actually, yeah, fuck, maybe I can be a chef, you know? And it's literally happened like that. I then started buying, like, my parents bought me a couple of cookbooks. So I started washing up in the local pub and making sandwiches. Then I went to a manor house and I was washing up there, making all the fires for the rooms and all that kind of thing. And then I was in the kitchen during service, washing plates and pots and all that kind of thing. And I just loved the energy. Again, it was that kind of like fun, boyish kind of like banter. And at the same time, I broke my leg driving to work. And then my mum bought me this book called Raymond Blanc's Manuel Quatre Saisons. And it was like a famous chef at the time, a cookbook. And then while I was hobbling around on crutches, I cooked my whole way through that cookbook at home. And I was just obsessed.
I'm going to change the topic a bit to a more current question. What is your definition of success?
My definition of success is happiness. I measure my success not by purely my my goals that I've achieved in my career, but I measure my success by having a son that I've raised, you know, seeing the world, and then of course there is, you know, the success that I've achieved in my professional life, which is, you know, right now success means that I get to work with people that have had no experience before. I get to see them grow, and I get to see the fruits of my labor in other people, particularly in South Africa, where there are limited opportunities for young people in many walks of life. That's success for me, is that I can impart my knowledge and help people grow and get out of, you know, the rut that they might be in.
Have you achieved that level of success yet?
I think I'm still achieving it. You know, I think success is a constant journey. It's not like a place where you suddenly find yourself that you've arrived and you are successful. I think that success morphs into different things. When I was in my 30s, if you'd asked me the same question, I would have said success will be making my restaurant number 12 in the world. You know, that would have been my success story then. But you know, as you grow and change, you realize that there's a lot more to what success is. And I think the essence of happiness is always changing your own perception of what your success is.
You discuss success as a journey more than an end point. What is the next step in your journey?
I feel that I am going to continue growing professionally. I've got other business ventures I want to involve myself in. I'm very fortunate to have trained a lot of people that want to still work for me. So, again, if I can empower those people to do beautiful food, and like, for example, this morning I did a menu for the new bar that I'm opening just up the road here. And we're doing like fine dining canapes. I did the menu for that, and I'm going to start testing the food out for that this morning. And that for me is my continued journey. Is it all starts with what's on the plate.
You've obviously made some exceptional restaurants in South Africa and across the world. What is your management style?
I think you need to be an expert in your field to manage people properly. They need to want to learn from you and see that you have something to teach them. And I lead by example, and I think to have humility and empathy for people that you work with, as well as a strict structure around them, that makes people feel safe.
You discussed your school journey as being quite a rough one. How critical was the schooling system in making you successful?
I think school for me was it just taught me to show up every day, and you know, yeah, I mean, I've had conversations with my son about it, like what's the point in school? And I think school teaches you to show up for yourself and show up for life, and gives you structure as a young human being. You know, it also obviously teaches you the academic side of things, which is incredibly important. And I don't think I would have managed to do what I'm doing now if I'd never gone to school, for example. You know, although it wasn't at the time, it didn't seem beneficial, but I got to show up, get out of bed, go through the motions, go home, do the homework, and carry on, you know. And it's about accountability, isn't it?
Yeah, can you elaborate on the fact that that school actually helped you? How did school help you?
Well, I think, you know, from you often learn from your mistakes, you know, and I made a lot of mistakes at school, got in a lot of trouble and was kind of like dealt with by the school and my parents. And that probably taught me boundaries that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't gone to school, you know.
Where are you now, and how did your childhood self affect that?
Good question. Um, I think my childhood, because it wasn't 100% stable. Sorry, my childhood, because it wasn't 100% stable, and I was you know, I dabbled in a lot of things as I was growing up. And I learned to cope with things that weren't ideal in my childhood in potentially, you know, not ideal ways. That is something that that I work on regularly in my adulthood as well, you know.
Can you elaborate on how you work on it in your adulthood as well?
I do like quite a lot of therapy. Um I do counseling. Yeah, it's been a long journey and it's been a rocky road for me. And I feel like it's important for people to know that you know, and I share this kind of thing with people that work with me, the younger people that struggle potentially with emotional issues or depression issues or substance abuse, or you know, it is a rocky road. And it's important for people to know that getting help is a vital part of that road, you know.
You discussed earlier in our interview that happiness is your key to success, or your definition of success. What do you believe buys your happiness at the end of the day?
Buys it.
Or not buys it, well, where do you find your happiness?
I think you have to find it within. You find it with love for family members, love for people in your life, sharing your experiences, love for the people I work with, and I'm also incredibly fortunate to have this gift that keeps on giving, in a sense, in cooking, and that brings me an enormous amount of happiness.
Who were your role models as a child?
Um, I think my sister's boyfriend for a while was my role model, however unhealthy that was. Um, I think my dad was a role model, although he was, you know, often in his own head. He was a composer of classical music, so he was often out with the fairies, you know. And of course, my mother as well.
How did they influence you?
I don't think they influenced me, but I was my own kind of agent, but they did love me, and I always knew that, you know.
And how did that love help you today?
I think it helped me. I think love from a parent helps a child like self-regulate.
I'm going to change the topic more to your business and management style, etc. How do you know a good idea when you see it?
Um, I think you got to feel it first of all, you know. Like, so this new bar that I'm opening now, I was going to call it Potluck Bar. Now I'm calling it Salon Potluck, and it's going to have a French theme running through it. The only reason that I'm doing that is because I thought of a dish that will look like a classic French gâteau, but it will actually be savory. And then I thought, how about if I do all the dishes around classic French pastries, but make them all savory? And then the idea is born. but you can't rush it. It's just got to come to you naturally, you know?
So it's an instinct thing. An instinct thing.
Exactly right.
I'm gonna go back to your childhood and your build up to success. When did your build up to success begin after school? When was the beginning, and how did you become aware of your starting point?
Um, it took a long time. The kitchens that I worked in from age 18 onwards were very abusive, bullying, top heavy environments. I hated all my jobs for at least 5 years into my work experience, but I just stuck at it because I didn't think there was an alternative way, and that's just the way it was, you know. So that taught me a lot about how I don't want to manage people. It also turned me from a boy into a man in terms of organization, accountability, showing up on time, you know, pulling my head in and losing the cocky attitude, you know. And then the success really happened. I went into the hotel industry for a while, but the real success happened when I stepped back into restaurants in South Africa. I went to Colombe, and there within 3 years we were at number 12 in the world.
How would you describe your journey from teenager to team leader?
Teenager to
Team leader.
Oh, good question. I think as a teenager, I was always the clown, making everyone laugh. I was the smaller and youngest in the group generally, but I was quite outspoken. And in the workplace, I was incredibly cocky, which didn't help me. You know, I would talk back to people, questions people, and I got put in my place a lot, both socially and professionally, and I see it now. You know, like I had a chat to a young guy in the kitchen yesterday who I see a lot of myself in him. He wants to talk back. He wants to like challenge the system. He wants to, and I said to him, mate, like it's not going to help you in the long run, you know, because I had to be told that, and I had to be told, Luke, you know, I would complain that I had an issue with someone, and eventually I remember my chef saying to me, well, Luke, you're the common denominator in all these problems, you know, so look at yourself, you know, and I think those experiences have helped me to, you know, I can learn to share that with the youngsters that I'm working with today, you know.
Are there any strategies you've used to get out of that habit of being cocky or talking back?
I'm still cocky and I still talk back, but I think one of the reasons why I'm successful and an entrepreneur and I work for myself is because I always had that thing with authority from school onwards, you know, and I wanted to manage myself into a situation where I didn't have to report to anyone. But having said that, I've learned an enormous amount about how to, you know, just be humble. I'm humble now. You know, I can say that with my hand on heart. I don't. I listen to people, and if I'm wrong, I admit it. You know.
I was going to ask you a question about being tough, and has your childhood made you tough, and has that helped you in your career path?
Yeah, definitely. I think being tough is very important. You know, you gotta have resilience. You know, I had to push through my early jobs. I had to push through, you know, and take it on the chin and show up the next day and do it again. And I feel like in certain cultures and certain parts of the globe, the youngsters, if they get chastised or talked down to, they'll rather walk away from it, you know. But I think life is about showing up the next day, and you know, that's how we grow, you know.
I obviously have ADHD, which is why I use a schedule or routine to try and get my stuff done on a day-to-day basis. Do you have a schedule or routine that you stick by?
Yeah, I try and swim in the sea every day. I try and do some kind of sports every day. I do therapy, and I come to work every day.
How does swimming in the sea help you?
It's just nice. It's like it resets me.
Do you do it in the morning or the afternoon before you start your workday?
Usually
how does that
both. I've
work?
swum in the sea already today. It's only 10:30 or something like that. And then I will probably swim in the sea again this afternoon. It grounds me. If my head's going a bit crazy, it grounds me. I also take, like, it's important to know that I also take mood stabilizing medication and all of that. And that has also helped me a lot in terms of obsessive thinking and all that kind of thing. That's only been in the last, I would say, 6 or 7 years, and there's no shame in it.
Yeah, and therapy, how does therapy help you?
Well, you're able to offload your shit onto someone else, basically, and they'll listen to you, and they'll guide you, and like sharing your problems, something I never did for many years. You just bottle them up and keep them secret. And I've realized that, like, sharing them, a problem shared is a problem solved, as they say.
So is bottling up been an issue for you in the past? And how has that affected you?
Oh yeah, when I was younger, I would bottle everything up and keep everything from everyone, and I think the issue of that is you start to live in a kind of world that's full of things that you haven't shared with people, and it's just not healthy. And I would say, like, 12 years ago, I probably went through some changes, and I learned a lot about the importance of sharing.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time here, but I'm going to end this off with one more question. If you could go back and say one thing to your 16-year-old self, what would it be?
Wow, that's a hard question. I would say it's going to be okay. you know whatever you're dealing with right now, if you keep showing up for work, and you follow your heart, and use your instincts, then it will be okay.
Cool. Thank you so much, Luke. And I truly believe you inspired me and many other children as well. Thank you so much.
Cool, man. Cheers, eh?